It's been a long time coming, but at last on Unleash the Ghouls, we're about to travel through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, Nightmare Fuel. And that's because I really want to get down to covering a lot more of Rod Serling's masterwork, which I truly believe is the greatest television series ever devised. To get the ball rolling, let's sink our teeth into possibly the show's most famous episode, although that title could go to a plethora of them. Let's talk about Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. William Shatner makes his second appearance on the show, having previously been seen in the little gem of an episode, Nick of Time. Originally airing in 1963, several years prior to the launch of Star Trek, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet absolutely helped carve a path for Shatner to become a mainstream actor. He puts in a serious shift here as the convincingly paranoid Bob, a man who has just left a sanitarium after a 6-month recovery from a nervous breakdown, and he's en route home with the missus. But it doesn't help that he still retains his nervousness for flying. Today's word, children, is aerophobia, the fear of flying in an airplane, and for any sufferers out there, this episode does a fantastic job at displaying just what fears can be experienced while aboard. Just the simple things like the shutting of doors, turbulence, a storm while flying, a shadowy figure of a monster on the wing. Yeah, you heard me. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Because the true Nightmare Fuel element to the episode here is that Bob has a window seat, and whenever he looks outside, he can see what appears to be a large, woolly-bodied creature making its way towards the window. However, whenever he tells his wife or the crew about it, it disappears. It's a classic Twilight Zone trait of illusions. Is what Bob can see the reality, or is it just a figment of his imagination as the result of his condition? Has he really been fully treated at the sanitarium, or are some of his mental scars still bleeding through? Whatever the case, this makes for a bloody creepy experience. The initial shot where you see the monster at the very end of the wing slowly making its way into the light is truly horrifying. Combining that with the heavy rain making it difficult to make out, and the cracks of lightning giving you very brief glimpses here and there, you know that something is there, but you can't exactly see what it is, and that just fires up the tension like a rifle blast. Shatner's acting is fantastic here. You can see how much fear is on his face, his profuse sweating and anxious shakes. It's a brilliant display of a man who's encompassed by fear. Because that's the thing here, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is fundamentally a bottle episode wherein no matter what Bob does, he's still stuck on a plane in the sky. There's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide from what lurks outside. And what exactly does lurk outside? We find out in quite possibly the best executed jump scare in the history of the Twilight Zone. The build-up here is magnificent. There's no score, just Bob sitting at the window wondering if he should look outside again. He's seen the outline, we've seen the outline, but we never did get a proper look. If Bob looks outside the window again, will it be there, will it not? What will we see? But because there's no musical build-up, and the fact Bob pulls the curtain so quickly, it becomes so startling. Then with how far zoomed in the camera shot is, the screen is suddenly dominated by the monster's face, and it kicks in extra fear factor because your brain's not able to process the full face quickly enough. That hideous face pressed against the glass, eyeballing Bob in a sinister fashion, is a nightmarish image that I won't be forgetting in a hurry. You can argue that the monster, which Bob refers to as a gremlin for the rest of the episode, looks pretty goofy by today's standards, but the power here is in the way the gremlin is presented in terms of the music, or the lack thereof, the lighting, and the pacing of the episode. After the jump scare, Bob sees the gremlin several more times trying to tamper with the wing. In effect, Bob now has to convince the staff he's telling the truth, otherwise the plane could be taken down and crash at the hands of the gremlin. But that's the issue. The one man who's witnessed the gremlin is the one man on the flight known to have recently been through a psychological breakdown. He's the least believable man on the plane, yet for the sake of everyone's lives, he has to be the most believable. So Bob plans on how he's going to take out the gremlin single-handedly, given how nobody else can ever see it when he wants them to. I must say as well, huge creep factor, is the way that the gremlin flees from the wing. He jumps and glides around in the air, and I hate it. It makes it seem all the more ethereal. Bob manages to grab himself a gun, cracks the window, and has a shootout with the gremlin, and thankfully the plane lands to safety, with Bob's antics being considered a suicide attempt. However, the exposed metal plating on the wing says it all. Perhaps there was a gremlin out there after all. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet constantly floats around in the upper echelons of the Twilight Zone lists, not only for best episodes but for scariest ones. The combination of the claustrophobic, inescapable environment with a very well done monster and a series of effective scares, most notably the window scare, was enough to secure this episode its place amongst the greats. When the Twilight Zone movie was released in 1983, which remade several episodes from the original series, the finale selected was Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. This one was directed by George Miller of Mad Max fame and had a much more grotesque looking gremlin. This gremlin was parodied in a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode, attacking the Springfield Elementary School bus with Bart in the role of Bob. So the history and impact of Nightmare at 20,000 Feet have been felt through generations and made a star of William Shatner. But do you think it's up there with the best of the Twilight Zone? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time, Ghoul Gang, I've been Connor from Unleash the Ghouls. I shall see you once again when we next meet in the Twilight Zone.